Welcome to this edition of Audio App. I'm Jim Schwartz. With me today, Austin Scott. Austin's a field agronomist in Tennessee. Austin, let's start with wheat. I know you're down in the south and it's been a little warmer. Tell us about how the warm winter weather is impacting wheat and the decisions growers have to make.
Thanks for having me on today, Jim. Wheat is a crop that we are making decisions on currently. A lot of situations, we froze up in early February, and some growers were able to get an early shot of nitrogen on. But basically ever since then, we have been looking for a dry enough field just to put our second shot of nitrogen on. That wheat is getting big quickly, like you said, and we're starting to move up to that joint stage. Jointing is extremely important when you think about applying nitrogen to wheat, because after joint, your head size is determined. So nitrogen applications don't really influence yield quite as much past jointing. I will say that nitrogen is still going to be important, and we still need to try to get that second shot on, because grain size and grain fill can still influence yield quite a bit. A few other things that I'm starting to see in wheat, because we have been so wet and so warm, we're starting to see some powdery mildew start to jump up in that wheat crop. And then I would be on the lookout for some rust. So no reports yet of stripe rust, a little bit of leaf rust coming in, but rust is something that I would be on the lookout for in a lot of these wheat fields for maybe an early fungicide application. Historically, we are going to be in those fields a little bit later at that heading timing for our head scab weed application, but that's not for a couple of more months. The last thing that I'm seeing quite a bit in wheat is aphid pressure, Jim. I've got a sinking feeling that we're going to see a lot of yellow fields here in just a couple of months from barley yellow dwarf virus. With all the wet weather and warm weather we've had, aphids have started jumping into these wheat fields pretty drastically. Aphids are the primary vector of barley yellow dwarf virus, so it is important to control that insect when we have the opportunity. Just a generic pyrethroid is typically my go-to recommendation there. I would most likely be recommending that in just about all fields right now. Everyone I've scouted recently has been right at threshold or over threshold for aphid pressure.
Wow. So Austin, as a herbicide specialist, I know you have a lot of passion around weeds and herbicide systems. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts as it relates to this warm winter and weed control.
Yeah, absolutely, Jim. I'll keep it short and sweet there. Early burn downs have practically been non-existent, which is unfortunate because, again, all the warm weather we've had, these cool season annuals like Mare's Tail and the Brassicas and Mustards have really started putting on some size quickly. And these are situations that we typically like to get out with early on in March and check those weeds up a little bit. So this year, this is not a problem we can't work through. It's just one that we need to be prepared for. So we're going to be doing a lot of burn down at planting, or actually planting a lot of situations and then burning down and putting our pre-emerge down. So that's not it's nothing that we can't work through, Jim, but just something to be prepared for. We're going to need a real robust burn down and pre-emerge herbicide application right at the planter.
Are you worried about plant back restrictions at all, Austin? How much importance are those for the growers?
Absolutely. Something to consider always is plant back restrictions of the chemicals we're using. Thankfully, Jim, we've got new technologies on the market that'll allow us to not have to wait to plant in situations. So if you're spraying dicamba product like Extendamax or Ingenia to help you burn down some cool season annuals, well, then you can plant your Roundup Ready to Extend beans without a plant back interval. Or if you're using Enlist 1 or Enlist Duo as your 2,4-D option, then you can plant Enlist beans right back into it. So we've got some saving graces there, Jim. but there's always other plant back intervals that you really need to maintain, like sharpen. If you get over an ounce of sharpen, that comes with a plant back interval for soybeans.
So what else, Austin? We've talked about weeds. We've talked about wheat. What other things are on the top of your mind as it relates to this past winter weather?
I think just two more bullet points I'd like to hit real quick, Jim. The first being lime applications. So we all know that pH is one of the most important factors as far as making your nutrients more available in the soil, making your herbicides work better and your pesticides work better. So I think lime applications have really suffered for a lot of growers that wanted to get some out in the spring. So my comment there is continue to put that lime out. There's been several academic studies that show that lime applied in the spring still shows benefit a lot of times to the crop that's put in that year. Now, of course, there's buffer pH and the soil's ability to buffer that comes into that. But my comment there would be continue to make those lime applications if you can. And then last but not least is something we talked about at PFR Insight meetings this year, and that's the addition of sulfur. I'm a big proponent of sulfur, especially on your grass crops like corn and wheat. But sulfur is a big deal, so I'm promoting a lot of sulfur applications in 2x2x2 systems this year in like a 28004, 28005 blend of UAN. Sulfur plays a big role in producing a big healthy root system, so I think it's important to get some sulfur out early, but then remember that a lot of that sulfur in a corn plant is taken up later in the year also. So split applying sulfur I think is a big conversation point to have this year also.
Fantastic insight. With me today, Austin Scott, field agronomist from Tennessee. Austin, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, that's it for this edition of Audio App. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.